The Chair now recognizes the ranking member for the full committee, Mr. Issa, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this important hearing. I might note that this hearing today is on H.R. 4735. Since it wasn't noticed that way, I would like to suggest that we hold a similar hearing on H.R. 572. As the Chairman may know, H.R. 572, the bill that prompted this, never had a hearing. One of the challenges I think that the Chairman and myself as ranking member faced in the markup was that we had not vetted many of the issues that were brought up related, particularly by the majority, related to the federal employees. The amazing thing, of course, is every time somebody on either side of the aisle says federal worker, we immediately realize that what is good for the goose is good for the gander. A federal worker and a federal contractor have many similarities. Since I served on the House Select Intelligence Committee, I was very exposed to the fact that we have a huge amount of what are contract status employees in the clandestine world, but they're really a company of one. And under the H.R. 572, they would find themselves, if you will, if you were a CIA contractor of one, you would find yourself fired without protection under H.R. 572. You'd find yourself fired without protection on exactly what the gentlelady from the District of Columbia and others have said we want to have as protections not currently in this bill. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope today as we go through this hearing that all of us will have both sides of our brain on, the one that says contractor and the one that says person. Because ultimately a great many of our contractors are either individuals or very small groups who enjoy all the same problems and burdens that our employees, as federal employees have. Additionally, as was noted in the markup, federal workers most often run into tax problems because they have small businesses or a family has small business or something outside of their direct federal employment. I believe that if we, on a bipartisan basis, work together here at the subcommittee and then at the full committee, we can find a harmonized bill, one that provides appropriately near or absolute protections for the contractor, thinking in terms often of a contractor of one, and for the private person. The due process that we ask for a federal worker to have is very appropriate, and making sure that we do never have a situation in which a person finds themselves willing to catch up over time on their taxes on a voluntary or an agreed basis, but at the same time wanting the opportunity to dispute taxes they believe they do not owe and to have all of the normal due process while still enjoying a paycheck. So I would join with the gentlelady from the District of Columbia and say, when we leave this, we have to leave understanding that a large company or a small company that has a dispute with the IRS should not find themselves out of a contract and thus unable to afford their own defense. Well, in fact, if they're given the opportunity to go through the process, they may well be vindicated. Certainly for a private individual who is a federal employee, the same is true and probably more obvious. So as we go through the hearing today, which I appreciate us having, hopefully we're looking in terms of harmonization of two sets of federal workers, the individual federal worker and the federal worker under contract. And although they are hugely different in many ways, they are, from a standpoint of not paying their taxes, ultimately the same. They can only pay their taxes if they have income. We only want to make sure that they are in the process of leading to paying their fair taxes, and as long as they are, I would assume that the Chairman and myself are in total agreement. We would want them to continue being vendors or employees of the federal government as long as, in fact, they are making a good faith effort to either pay their taxes or to dispute them, as all of us have a right to do. I thank the gentleman. Yield back.